Salutations, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries, trans, and everyone in between and beyond. Welcome to Get Busy Watching. I will be your entertainer, Honest Dan. Let us discuss motion pictures. Self-parody. Hope everyone's having a good day so far, staying safe and all that. Well, here we are, finally reviewing my favorite film of 2020, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Now, before we get started, I do want to say a few things to avoid confusion or wise asses who really want to correct me. This is technically a 2019 film, in limited release. At the time, no movie theater was playing the film near me. It didn't get a worldwide release until early 2020, I think February maybe? That's when I saw it. So, call it a cheat if you want, but this is a 2020 film for me. Now, full disclosure, I've only seen the movie once, during its worldwide release opening weekend, and have not seen it since. So it is entirely possible that I may have a different opinion of this film by the time we finish going through it together. We shall inevitably see. So, join me with a glass of wine, and let's dive into Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Our story opens with a flash forward in an art school, with the teacher and our protagonist, Marianne, played by Noémie Merlan, instructing her students. I feel like the opening seconds of any movie that does this will either make or break the common moviegoer. Oh gee, an artistic French film is starting off doing art. It is a very artiste way of starting a movie. But hey, gotta drop the simple-minded Western sensibilities once in a while, right? And yes, I am speaking for myself. I'm usually not used to movies like this. One of Marianne's students inquires about a particular painting depicting a woman's dress being caught on fire, and Marianne reveals she made it.
Quel en est le titre? Portrait de la jeune fille en feu.
There it is! There it is!
So many missed opportunities to use this clip. We then get transported to the past, and Marianne is being taken to her next destination. Some quick nitpicks here. Is it just me, or does it look like she's moving that box to simulate the rocking of a boat? And also, how did it get overboard? Uh-oh. Is this one of those viewings where I like the movie less the more I see it? Christ, I hope not. Marianne arrives at her destination, drenched from jumping after her crate, and heads to her next destination, a fancy-ass house. Well, that's a quick day-night cycle. How the hell far is this house from the beach, yo? And despite the late hour, Marianne is greeted by the maid, Sophie, played by Luana Bajrami. Getting her wet things dried off by the fireplace, Marianne decides to help herself to a late-night snack and wine, and we learn a little bit of why Marianne is here.
Comment est votre jeune maîtresse?
Parce que sa sœur est morte.
C'est elle qui devait se marier. La maladie l'a emportée.
Vous pensez que vous allez y arriver? À la peindre? Il y en a un qui est venu avant vous.
Que s'est-il passé?
Je ne sais pas.
Frame this the right way, this could have been a horror flick. Adele Haenel needs to be a slasher killer at some point in her career. Marianne finds a desecrated painting of her subject, building up what she'll look like. Sorry I spoiled that. We meet the lady of the house, played by Valeria Golino, who clues Marianne in on everything.
Pourquoi refuse-t-elle d'être peinte?
Parce qu'elle refuse ce mariage. Vous allez devoir la peindre sans qu'elle le sache. Elle pense que vous êtes une compagne de promenade pour quelques jours.
Elle pense que je suis là pour la surveiller.
Et vous la regardez.
Basically, I'm paying you to stalk my emotionally compromised daughter and fully expect you to prevent her from committing suicide. No pressure. But if you fail, I will cut your tits off, have you strangled with a cord, and I will personally burn you at the stake. Oh my, is my rich white woman showing? It's Marianne's first day as Heloise's indentured BFF, but she keeps her face a secret. Rude ass bitch, no introductions or nothing? Definitely an artist must do an art moment. Marianne follows closely behind Heloise as they travel to the cliffs leading back to the beach. I knew it wasn't that far. Yo, France, your 18th century day-night cycles were really screwy back then. But suddenly, Heloise goes into a full run.
Ça fait des années que je rêve de faire ça. Mourir. Courir.
They take a break by the shore and, God, I love this bit.
Research me obsessively, find out everything you can about me.
Jokes aside, I do adore how the blocking and choreography is done. The way Merlan subtly moves forward and backward to look at Hanel. I've rewound this moment a few times now, and even still, I'm not always convinced that she's actually leaning. And it's just like my eyes playing tricks on me or something. Hanel's expressions, that subtle panic in Merlan's movements when Heloise looks at Marianne. It's low-key pretty funny at just how bad Marianne is at being subtle. But seriously, Hanel's eyes. We really need to sit down and talk about this serial killer business. They arrive back home and Heloise requests to borrow a book from Marianne, to which she lends.
Merci. C'est étrange que vous dormiez ici.
Well, I mean, I won't say no to better accommodations, or you can just insult me and leave.
Fuck you, asshole.
I know, it's strategic. The painting has to be kept a secret. But the way she delivers that line and walks away just cracks me up. Marianne is hard at work getting started on the portrait when it's time to, yet again, accompany Heloise on a walk.
Research me obsessively,
There is a strong possibility that I'll be using a ton of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend clips. Fingers crossed. That night, Marianne and Sophie get together and discuss Marianne's day with Heloise.
Je l'ai même pas vu sourire. Vous avez essayé d'être drôle.
Well, that is a cute point. The next day, Marianne and Heloise decide to have a real conversation with each other about the fate that Heloise's sister left for her to carry out, the life of living in a convent and their advantages, basically just trying to relate to each other.
C'est parce que vous pouvez choisir que vous ne me comprenez pas. Je vous comprends.
During another conversation between Marianne and the Comtesse, we learn that she wants Heloise to live in Milan with her husband so she'll be less bored?
Je ne la marie pas avec un propriétaire voisin. J'essaie de la mener ailleurs. Almeno lì si annoierà di meno.
Oh boy. Okay, while I do have a retort for myself later on, I do want to present my first light complaint regarding the film. I'm aware that there's likely historical and political reasons why this marriage between the Milanese man and Heloise needs to happen. The problem is, I'm not a historian on my own culture, let alone someone else's. Failing understanding 18th century French politics, the movie doesn't exactly feel like it offers a very compelling explanation either. So I haven't the slightest idea why this marriage is so important. As it stands, all I really know so far is that this marriage is happening so Heloise can go somewhere more fun, when she was perfectly happy or content with her life in the convent. In fact, from the way that Heloise explained it, it sounds like she had a great life before all this. I suppose my issue is the lack of context. Why is this marriage important? What's being gained? And what are the consequences if Heloise decides to back out and not go through with the marriage? And why do the characters care about what's being gained or lost? Obviously, this shouldn't be the centerpiece of the entire movie. But this marriage is a looming shadow over every second that we're watching. But, like I said, I might have an argument against myself, so for now, let's continue. Close this scene off with a cute moment.
Perché la mia amica è particolarmente brutta. È bruttissima. Mi avete fatto ridere.
Je n'ai rien fait du tout.
Vous êtes là. Il faut être deux pour être drôle.
Is it just me, or is the mouth not placed correctly on the face. What the hell am I doing? I'm not an art critic. Someone tell me to sit down and shut the fuck up. Realizing just how challenging it is to draw a model without the model, Marianne makes an attempt to get creative with a workaround, but is then interrupted by the model that should be modeling for her. This is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. I don't know what it is, but I love it when characters relate to each other through music. I think it's such a simple but effective way for anyone to relate to a character in some way. You can immediately spark a conversation with someone by saying something as simple as, I like K-pop, I like classical, I like symphonic metal, and a relationship can be formed, either by saying, yeah, I like that too, or nah, that's not what I jive with. And you can learn a lot about a person simply by what they say about the music that they like or dislike and why. I think my favorite bits are when she's clearly not playing that well, though.
Je l'ai en tête, mais je ne trouve pas.
All I want to do is just point and be all like, oh, looks like the mega talented artist has feet made of clay after all. And I love the way that Heloise is looking at her. Not so much caring about the music, but feeding off of her passion and energy. It's cute and adorable. At least until Debbie Downer has to shank the mood.
Je dis juste qu'il y aura aussi de bonnes choses.
Vous dites surtout que de temps en temps, je serai consolée.
Can't just let a cute moment be a cute moment, can ya, Miss Deerskin? I can get more cuteness from the maid. Bet you thought I was kidding. The next day, Heloise returns from her solitary walk and things get a little hot under the collar for Marianne.
J'ai senti dans la solitude la liberté dont vous parliez. Mais j'ai aussi senti que vous me manquiez.
Give in to your desire. Yes.
Marianne informs the Comtesse that the portrait of Heloise is finished, and after requesting to show it to Heloise first and to tell the truth about her presence in the house, Marianne learns that maybe that sudden awakening she had earlier may not have been exclusive to her.
Elle vous aime beaucoup.
Qu'en savez-vous?
Elle parle de vous.
Hey cutie, don't know if you knew, but I've kinda got a girl crush on you.
Yes.
The next day at the beach, Marianne comes clean.
Je dois vous dire quelque chose. Je suis peintre. Je suis venue pour vous peindre. J'ai fini votre portrait hier soir.
And Heloise reacts in an atypical way.
Alors c'est aujourd'hui que je me baigne.
Yeah, the symbolism escapes me on this one. Still, if you're gonna make me feel dumb by confusing me, you can always make me giggle.
Alors, vous savez nager?
Je sais toujours pas si je sais. Vous m'avez vu?
Vous savez flotter?
The mouth still looks off to me.
Man, sit your ass down.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, Heloise doesn't like the portrait because she can just feel that even Marianne doesn't care for it. And Marianne takes it personally in this biting exchange.
Que cela ne soit pas proche de moi, c'est quelque chose que je peux comprendre. Mais que cela ne soit pas proche de vous, voilà qui est triste.
Je ne vous savais pas critique d'art.
Je ne vous savais pas peintre.
And she sabotages her own painting, to which of course tries to apologize to the Comtesse.
Ce n'était pas assez bien. Je vais reprendre. Je suis désolée.
Alors vous êtes incapable. Vous pouvez partir.
Elle va rester. Je vais poser pour elle.
Pourquoi?
'Cause I'm feeling kinda naughty tonight.
Je pars 5 jours. Quand je rentre, le tableau est fini. C'est moi qui le décide, pas vous.
After the first day of posing for the new portrait, Marianne has a restless night and hangs out with Sophie, who reveals that she's pregnant.
Tu veux un enfant?
Non. J'attendais que madame soit partie pour pouvoir m'en occuper.
I'm not gonna lie, this stuff doesn't quite hold up for me. Very specifically, anything involving Sophie and the abortion of her baby. We'll get into it as we go along, as it's not quite the primary focus for right now, but I will be pointing this out eventually. Just prepping y'all for some whining. For now, I'm just going to point out, educational, that's how they did abortions back in the 18th century. That night, Marianne puts the kids to bed and gets an idea. I love this scene where she tries to draw a sleeping Heloise, creepy-ass white girl. And I love the little beat here when they're looking at each other. Where in the past, Heloise would catch Marianne looking at her and she would jerk her head away to futilely hide how weird she was. Now she caught her, but isn't hiding her gaze anymore. She's owning up to it, she's owning it, and Heloise just decides to pose for this nothing picture. Whereas in the past, she would fight tooth and nail to not pose for her own wedding portrait. Oh, and she's smiling. See, I knew that mouth was too far to the left.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
Bitch, you know I'm right. The next day, Marianne hits a brick wall when painting Heloise. Once again, really fun scene. Hope I didn't just insult Celine Sciamma by calling her heavy romantic period drama fun. But I love this metaphorical chess game between the two ladies. How all that staring that Marianne's been doing, she's picked up on Heloise's tics.
Quand vous êtes ému, vous faites comme ça avec votre main. Et quand vous êtes embarrassé, vous mordez vos lèvres. Et quand vous êtes agacé, vous ne sciez pas.
Vous savez tout.
But then Blondie decides to make her own moves.
Venez ici. Regardez. Si vous me regardez, qui je regarde moi? Quand vous ne savez pas quoi dire, vous baissez la tête et vous touchez votre front. Quand vous perdez le contrôle, vous haussez les sourcils. Et quand vous êtes troublé, vous respirez par la bouche.
I love Marianne's expressions here. It's all like, fuck you, bitch, I'm just trying to paint a portrait here. The next night, the ladies get together for a friendly game of slapjack, I think.
Non, j'ai pas touché. Non, j'ai pas touché. Ça y est, c'est bon. Vous avez touché.
Concentrez-vous un peu.
Really? A competitive game and not one loser is calling the winner a bitch or a cunt. Y'all ain't losing correctly.
You just sound like a whore. Listen to your voice. You are so angry right now, and you sound like a whore doing it. You're an angry whore.
And the next day, another painting session.
Découvrez votre gorge. Encore.
Vous ne perdez pas de vue mon futur époux?
Yes, absolutely, your husband.
Vous peignez des modèles nus aussi?
Des femmes, oui.
Pourquoi pas des hommes?
Je n'ai pas le droit.
Pourquoi?
Parce que je suis une femme.
Ah yes, sexism. How primordial and pedestrian. Ghastly.
C'est une question de pudeur?
C'est surtout une façon de nous empêcher de faire de la grande peinture.
Wait, great art is in the penis? Am I interpreting that sentence correctly? Please tell me that something got lost in translation. Or is this an 18th century thing? Don't empower us, ladies. The world caters to us enough.
Que dites-vous à vos modèles? Pour les distraire?
Vous avez un teint remarquable aujourd'hui. Vous êtes très élégante. Vous posez à merveille. Vous êtes jolie. Voilà ce que je leur dis.
Do you want to cut the sexual tension, or should I? Ah, the Orpheus and Eurydice reading. This will be important to broach later on.
Mais non. Il ne peut pas la regarder parce qu'il a peur de la perdre. Ça ne tient pas à ses raisons. Ce sont précisément les consignes qu'on lui a données.
Il est fou d'amour. Il ne résiste pas.
Moi, je crois que Sophie n'a pas tort. Peut-être que s'il se retourne, c'est qu'il fait un choix.
Quel choix?
Il ne fait pas le choix de l'amoureux, il fait le choix du poète.
Later on, the trio of ladies locate a gathering of other women as Sophie is getting a checkup on her pregnancy. Oh my god, I love this scene. I could listen to this for about a week without getting bored. And then come back after a month, start the whole process over again. No, of course we French don't freak out and panic when our clothes catch fire. We pose, look regal, and bring inspiration to great art. Plus it looks cool for the trailer. The next day on the beach, Marianne and Heloise find an isolated spot. But it doesn't quite go as planned. Marianne and Sophie eat dinner without Heloise, but later when Marianne tries to check up on her, she's haunted by a ghostly image. Literally. But the two ladies reunite by the fireplace and...
Nice. Nice!
The next day, the two lovers accompany Sophie to officially abort her pregnancy. Okay, now I take some slight umbrage here. Before anyone asks, no, I'm not anti-abortion. That's not my complaint. What is why is this abortion subplot relevant to the story? I guess at the time when I first watched this, I think I simply chalked it up to being edgy and showing how abortions were done during the 18th century, and took it as educational more than anything, regardless of my comfort level of watching it. And believe me, I got uncomfortable. But now that I'm here again, I don't know why we're being educated on 18th century abortions, if that's even what's going on. What does this have to do with the love story between Heloise and Marianne? How does this further their relationship outside of the obvious they're spending time together? They can do that when Marianne's not painting Heloise. Basically, why is Sophie getting so much screen time right now? Why is there so much emphasis on her and what she's going through? Alright, so I did a wee bit of digging, and I think I found an answer to my question. I will be referencing this article on bitchmedia.org. Great name for a website, by the way. Titled, Stories Unmasked, The Two-Pronged Genius of Portrait of a Lady on Fire's Abortion Scene by Ilana Spivak. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I have no idea how reputable this writer or this website is, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just going to read the bits that stood out to me that gave me a new perspective to consider. Sciamma creates an egalitarian female world that for most of the film brings to mind the word utopia. Not because it's free of pain, but because it's free of manacles. Basically, if you're an illiterate fuck like me, it's saying perfect female world, no restrictions on what they can or cannot do. This freedom extends beyond Marianne and Heloise's romance and into the freedom to do as one pleases. In a compelling subplot, young housemaid Sophie learns she is pregnant and has an abortion. The radical portrayal of the abortion and the way the three women reflect on it stands out in the relatively recent spate of on-screen abortion stories. Sophie learns she's pregnant after telling Marianne that she hasn't had her period. Marianne coolly asks if she wants to have a baby. Sophie says no. End of discussion. There's no backstory and no mention of the father. In fact, for much of the movie, there are no men at all. Sophie makes her own decision and that's that. So, it's a misandrist film. Makes sense. I mean, a perfect world without men. They either have no dialogue or very little dialogue. No, I don't actually believe that. It just felt like the perfectly inappropriate time for an inappropriate male to make an inappropriate comment. The abortion takes place in an herbalist's home, the scene notably cozy. It's aesthetically warmer than one would imagine an abortion scene in a film to be. Since the film is set in the 1770s, Sciamma avoids showing the sterility of an abortion clinic, usually portrayed in gray and white shades. This firelit scene seems anything but sterile. The film's painterly cinematography adds an intimate, expressive layer to the scene, full of soft shadows and supple cloth dresses, rather than sharp angles of an exam table and a flimsy paper gown. There's no stainless steel here, just a soft bed and a welcoming fire. And since this event occurs in the women's egalitarian microcosm, how does that scene from Born Yesterday go? Well, why didn't you just say that?
That's this?
Sure.
Well, why didn't you say so?
I need to watch that movie again. It's so fucking good. Article. Yes, I see what's happening here. The writer is suggesting that Tsukiyama deviates from the core story to broaden its own horizons, which does feed into my own personal thoughts regarding the film, but that's for later on. But I do get what's being read into. Viewers watch as Sophie grimaces through physical discomfort and begins to cry, but a giggling baby resting nearby turns to her, making Sophie smile. Tsukiyama forces viewers to witness the entire scene. No. This, I don't care what kind of symbolism you're going for. No matter what kind of poetry you're spewing, this was awkward as hell. In a film where the female gaze leads the way, the act of witnessing something so unflinchingly becomes profound. The women are experiencing something impactful, and by electing to illustrate this small moment within the larger event, the abortion, Tsukiyama not only shows the procedure in full, but shows that other people, other women, knew about it. I imagine Tsukiyama saying that, referring to Sophie's abortion. Tsukiyama shows us unequivocally what a baby is, the life form next to Sophie, not the dreamed-up baby pushed by anti-choicers in an attempt to shame those who have abortions. Basically, it continues to serve the theme of the gays that this film is toting. In a small way more than anything, but it's still part of it. I'll have some thoughts on this later on, but this did give me something to think about. But let's carry on. We're back at home, but no one can sleep, so Heloise gets hit with inspiration.
Vous pouvez vous lever? Nous allons peindre.
Redressez la tête.
Just saying. I know this movie roots itself in artistic license a lot, but I couldn't name the woman who would want to go through that procedure, recreate it, and then have it captured on canvas. But hey, I'm a dude. Fuck what I think. The next day, Marianne and Heloise resume painting the portrait, but Heloise is making it difficult.
Soyez sérieuse.
So serious.
See, I love shit like this. Heloise smiling like a goof, Marianne trying to be professional and failing miserably. It's adorable. Oh boy, I cannot show the next minute because YouTube and certain other parties will not appreciate the imagery. Basically, lady nipples, hairy armpits, and a visual gag of two fingers going into folds of skin that look like a vagina, but is actually just an armpit. It's not a sex scene per se, it's the two women laying naked in bed and trying out a hallucinogenic ointment called flying ointment. Apparently it was used for situations like this, sexy time back in the day. As for the application in the armpit, I'd say it's weird, regardless of its historical accuracy, but people snort bath salts. Who am I to judge how people use drugs? Frankly, an 18th century armpit drug sounds less weird to me than teenagers eating Tide Pods.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
That night, Marianne gets a drink of water, but is once again haunted by the ghostly image of Heloise in a wedding dress. She returns to bed and... Even drinking water has to be sexual? Staving off death by dehydration does not need to be incorporated into coitus. Or should it be? And that's why I don't see any action, because I have no imagination. Explains more than it doesn't. The next day, Marianne and Heloise gaze at the finished portrait. However, this finally brings some unconfronted feelings to the surface.
Je voudrais détruire aussi celui-ci. Parce que par lui, je vous donne un autre.
Parce que maintenant que vous me possédez un peu, vous m'en voulez?
Non.
Si. Vous me reprochez la suite. Mon mariage. Vous me trouvez docile. Pire, vous m'imaginez complice.
C'est une façon de ne pas espérer.
God, I love that line. The fight ends with Heloise leaving the room, and later, Sophie relays some bad news.
Madame rentre demain matin.
Très bien.
Vous serez prête?
Marianne races to find Heloise at the beach and begs her forgiveness for the fight. Making their last day count, Marianne makes a personal picture of Heloise for herself, to which Heloise wants a picture of Marianne, specifically sketched in her book on page 28.
Donnez-moi votre livre. Dites-moi un chiffre.
28.
After spending their last night sharing the memories they'll hold on to of each other,
Je me souviendrai de votre regard noir quand je vous ai battu aux cartes.
Je me souviendrai de la première fois où vous avez ri.
Vous avez mis du temps à être drôle.
the next morning, Heloise's mother returns home. Marianne says goodbye to Sophie and to Heloise.
Retourne-toi.
Oh, shit. In the present day, Marianne relays to the audience that she saw Heloise 2 more times. Once at a gallery, page 28, bitch! And the last time at a Vivaldi concert.
Elle ne m'a pas vu.
Whew! Yeah, I still love it. Maybe some things don't age that well here and there on an artistic or practical level, but I would love to own a physical copy of this. For anyone that knows me very well, my love for this flick doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. I'm a very simplistic moviegoer. I like traditional 3-act structures, sensible characters that I can get attached to, and generally groan at the thought of watching something like this. Something that is heavily rooted in symbolism, goes wild with artistic vision, with nothing to truly care about. I've seen movies like that go so far south, even Antarctica wishes it had a windbreaker. Except that's exactly what this movie is. It takes so much inspiration from artistic sources, like famous paintings and musical compositions, and more often than not, sacrifices logic, real-world actions, and reactions for the sake of artistry. But I think that's the key for me. The subtext of what this movie was driving at, look, I may not have understood everything that it was going for, but I was compelled to learn. There was something about the beautiful scenery, the heartfelt acting from both Merlon and Hanel that struck a particular chord with me, and I wanted to learn more about it. In short, it made me want to do homework. I don't think I could name another movie that did that. Well, maybe Mother, but more because I couldn't believe that it was getting positive reviews, so I wanted to know why. In any case, the more I learned about this gaze, how it traps us, frees us, all these different ways of utilizing it, I started seeing those subtleties in the actors and the intended effects on the characters. Complemented by the terrific acting and direction. The stillness of so many shots, I got the impression that this was supposed to be literally motion pictures. When the camera lingers, we're supposed to read into it, and I keep seeing something to interpret, and I like what comes to my mind. Or, as I said, I enjoy the actors. I enjoy the parallels it has with the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, and I enjoy this period piece that has no classism. The characters are equals in each other's eyes. No one is above or beneath each other, creating interesting character relationships. Sure, I can see why this isn't someone's cup of tea. When the movie decides to veer off and showcase these 3 women being portrayed in a perfect female world where they can get an abortion with no societal backlash, free to make the choices they want, free to express themselves how they wish, even I don't quite understand what this has to do with the romance that seems to be the center of the story, despite how nice this artistic vision is. Everything positive I said is likely every reason why this movie wouldn't work for someone else. It's less of a character-driven story and more poetically driven. I think that's what makes or breaks this movie for certain viewers. And if I'm right, I get it. Still, I love it for what I did understand. I don't get tired of watching it, and because it's such a compelling film that it made me want to go out of my way to do my homework on it, that's no small feat and deserves quite a bit of respect from me. Also, lesbians are hot. This is why Portrait of a Lady on Fire is my favorite film of 2020. Thanks for diving in with me, folks. I do appreciate it. I was planning on doing a deep dive for my least favorite film of 2020, The Sleepover, but I just don't have it in me, and I'd rather save it for something that I actually feel a little passionate about. Besides, the big blockbuster franchises are coming up soon, and I want to make time to watch those movies and, you know, kind of give my brain a rest for a bit, and free up some time for myself on a personal level. But until then, my most solemn gratitude for your viewing pleasure. Have a marvelous day. Stay safe and healthy wherever you go. And wear a damn mask when you do. Until our next meeting.